All right, we're going to carry on our discussion about brushes. We're going to add some more to our tool set. But first of all, I wanted to talk about the stroke menu here. We have some more settings as it relates to how we can influence the stroke of the standard brush, in addition to this little menu here. So we have something called the lazy mouse, which will enable us to sort of average out the brush strokes. So initially, when I make a brush stroke, I'm able to kind of make these kind of abrupt changes. But we have something here called the lazy radius. So let's just try to turn that up. You should see a red line there, which kind of averages out my pen movement. So with this lazy mouse feature, it's much easier to make, if I want to make these smooth lines. So let's try to set this to C sub, turn this C intensity up a bit. Let's see, can try to add some might look like panels on this humanoid cyborg. It's kind of shaping up to be. You see, I can kind of quickly create, in a very simple way, these smooth brush strokes just by going into this lazy mouse feature. So I'm still just using a standard brush. In fact, everything we've done so far has just been using simple standard brush and affecting the surface. So there are some more settings here. You can make it follow curvature, you can make it snap to the surface and so forth. I'm not really going to cover that right now, just try it out. You can have some more control over your stroke settings just by going into this little menu here. So whenever you start making these customized changes to the brush, if you just want to reset brushes, you can do that right here. So this will just revert everything back to normal. So let's start looking at some more brushes here that we can add on to our toolbox. So to open up the brush menu, hotkey for that, you can press B for brush. And then we start with the first letter of the brush name. So right now I'm going to show the move brush. So I'm going to M will filter all the brushes starting with M. And then the move brush is on V. There we go. So to get back now to the standard brush would be BST, back to standard. Now BMV, hotkey for move brush. So let's just experiment with this brush. It will work a little bit better on lower subdivision levels. So I'm just going to go press Shift D, go back down to the lowest level. And instead of like drawing out strokes, here I'm kind of moving the mesh around to make these kind of overall changes. So here I need to get used to observing kind of the contours of the model, and I'm able to influence the shape in kind of a different way from other types of sculpting brushes. Sort of moving things around like this. And of course it depends on my draw size. If I have a very small draw size, I have to make tinier changes. So for larger changes, you have a fairly large draw size and somewhere kind of C intensity in the middle, and sort of, or lower it down if I want to be more gentle. So it's kind of working by observing the contours, and I can of course start to exaggerate forms quite a bit. I want to really kind of push this to not be so naturalistic, maybe a more exaggerated concept. So the move tool is incredibly useful. Now we're going to get back to another feature in ZBrush later on called Dynamesh. You find it right here under the Geometry tab right here. Dynamesh. This will be very different actually from what we're currently doing. So, I mean, right now we just started with a demo head. In other words, we already had an already existing 3D object. And what we're doing in ZBrush is that, yeah, we're making some tweaks. We've changed it quite a lot and we're adding some details and we're doing quite a bit to it, but we're not deviating too much from the original model. You know, relatively speaking, we still have the same rough model that we started with. Now with Dynamesh sculpting, we can do anything we want. So that's more for conceptual sculpting that we're going to be looking at a bit later. So now if I wanted to do something really kind of, let's say I just wanted to continue on like sculpting the body, I could drag down new portions using the move brush and then just keep sculpting from there. Could keep adding things down here. Now the problem without Dynamesh, if I hit Shift F, is that I get very stretched polys. So I'm just mentioning Dynamesh right now. We're not going to get into it right now, but the point is just that we cannot use the move brush like this currently, because if I just do that and I go back up in subdivision levels, hit D, I will see that I now have a lot of polys down here. But if I go to let me go back to the standard brush, I should see that I have a very limited poly count down here. See, I'm trying to make these finer details down here simply because now I have a very uneven polygon distribution. So up here I have a lot of polys, and down here they're spread out much more unevenly, kind of. So that's the problem with just conceptually sculpting without Dynamesh. We're going to get back to that. So just for now, all of that, just to say that with the move brush, for now, I'm just going to undo. We will use it, but only to kind of nudge things around and shaping the contours of the object to kind of finesse, give it that finesse that we want. Okay. So it's kind of an interesting tool. You can also hold Alt. That will pull straight out according to the surface normal. So there's two ways of kind of using the move brush. So we can exaggerate these forms. See, kind of interesting. And then D to go back up. All right, so that's the move brush. Save. And we'll just carry on. We can have a look at the pinch, BPI. The pinch brush, if we just, I'm going to go to kind of a medium level, subdivision level here. Just try it. It will pinch, you see, it will pinch the mesh together right where you're applying that stroke. And this will also depend, of course, on the draw size. If a very large draw size, it'll pinch everything. So probably just want to be a bit careful with this. And I can try to, if I want to start making this a bit more of a hard-edged kind of robot cyborg look, maybe something like that. So you see, I'm just pinching together the polys right there. You can also try that feature here at the lips, just pinch those together. And if I want to, like I said, I can increase the draw size quite a bit, and I can pinch, let me just lower the C intensity, pinch larger areas like this. Also use it that way. So it's kind of interesting. Just going to leave it at that. Pinch brush for you to experiment with. Kind of the opposite of that then would be inflate. That would be on BIN. The inflate brush. And that feels kind of like you're blowing air into the mesh. So if you have portions of the mesh which you'd like to kind of inflate, essentially, you can use this. I would kind of maybe set a low C intensity. It would be kind of at a low, or a medium subdivision level. Let's just try it. Try to inflate here around the eye, see what will happen. So it kind of, let's try that, inflate a bit. Inflate here, back. So it's kind of puffing air into regions of the mesh that you'd like to inflate. Also, kind of interesting effect. And if you're doing that on a large brush, again, you can really kind of have interesting results with it. But of course, now we already have a lot of established details, so it's perhaps not working optimally for this. But okay, and then we have let's see, Damien standard we need to mention. That would be on, what's that again? BDS? BDS, Damien standard. It's, as you see, it's really just a brush with a very pointy alpha, and it's set to C sub, and it has some nice fall off effects. But it's a very nice little brush. It just enables to make these kind of hard lines, kind of efficient for wrinkle patterns. And now we just changed this to a cyborg, so I don't know if maybe this pattern would be more like skin somehow. I guess maybe we would need to add. Anyway, so that would be the Damien standard, very useful. Little brush also to accentuate details if I want to kind of, it essentially just carves into the mesh. Nice brush. Kind of, similar to that would be the slash, let's see, /3. Some people use that. Similar feeling, is a bit more aggressive. So, with a few of these brushes, you can really achieve a lot. You do not need to know like hundreds of brushes to really be able to achieve great works. So let's see, BPI. Try to pinch maybe this back together. Yeah. I'm going to show another move brush right now. So we have BMT. That's move topological. That's kind of interesting brush because it allows me to move, let's say, for instance, this bottom eyelid without affecting this one, which would not be so easy with the normal move brush. But this move topological brush doesn't look at the actual world space distance, like between these eyelids. It looks at the topological distance. So it's very useful when you have, well, things like this that are very close together and you need to move them apart, because the topological distance between here and the bottom is actually quite far. You'd have to go all the way around here. Whereas in world space, yes, they're very close together. So this would be more difficult with the BMV, like the standard move brush. When I'm affecting here, you can see that, oh, I'm kind of pushing up that upper eyelid as well. So kind of two essential move brushes, BMT, move topological. And maybe we can try to pinch a bit again here. Just increase the C intensity, not that much. I'm not sure if that's an improvement. But anyways, and maybe go back up through our subdivision levels. And back to Damien standard. Maybe we could try to activate also in the Damien standard. See if we can activate, just go to the high subdivision level. Try to go with the stroke. We'll activate the lacy radius a bit here. We can add some more pronounced edge around here, for instance. Something like that. Maybe there's like a pattern down here. I don't know. So you can see you can be really creative kind of conceptually also here, except that we're really kind of actually just adding detail, right? Because essentially all this information, if you're looking at it from a standpoint of either a game or a movie, the production mesh would still be this lowest resolution mesh that would eventually go into production to be rigged and animated and so forth, and all this detail would be added kind of on top as a normal map in the case of a game, or a displacement map for movies. So those were some of the basic brushes. I think we have enough to sort of get started. There's one more called Clay Buildup on BCB, and this will get more useful once we start talking about the Dynamesh feature, and maybe not so much for now, because that's more like building up volume. It really feels like you're building up pieces of clay. It's very useful for conceptual sculpting, but maybe not so much for like this kind of detailing that we're doing currently. So you kind of build up volume and then smooth it out, and then it's a really great brush, the Clay Buildup. I'll get back to that. So anyways, just a quick look at some more brushes and further stroke settings.